You give me a brand new beginning. A brighter day, tomorrow will bring. You hear the voice of reason telling you this. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to another episode of Life with Shenita. We want to thank you all for joining this evening. This topic is so important and it is near and dear to my heart. In order for us to have optimal health and reach the goals that we desire, we have to make sure that we're mentally healthy as well. So I am excited to have joining me this evening Dr. Hughes, and she is a life coach in the mental health world. So I am so excited to share that she is not only a life coach in the mental health area, but we are from the same hometown, Pensacola, Florida. And I'm so excited that we have connected here in the Atlanta area. We were not connected in Pensacola, but we're certainly connected here in the ATL. So let's talk a little bit about Life with Shenita. Life with Shenita's goal is to see people overcome every obstacle and live a vibrant life. As many of you all know, my husband passed away 5 years ago, and it was sudden, it was tragic, it was traumatizing, to say the least. And although my heart felt like a piece of it died when he died in July of 2015, God said to me 8 months later that I had to live. I had to help others understand the importance of living through life's adversities. And so I desire to see people overcome challenges in life and deliberately choosing to live a vibrant life. And so as we're talking about mental health, and I was challenged in that area because of the trauma, the tragic loss of my husband that was sudden, the heart attack that took his life ultimately, and laying right next to him and not knowing CPR and blaming myself for a long time. And I had to go through grief counseling and really had to learn to forgive myself for not knowing CPR and feeling guilty. And so I know personally what can happen to you mentally when things go wrong in your life or things do not go as planned in your life. I understand the impact that it has on you mentally, not only mentally, but physically, emotionally, spiritually. And so I am hopeful that the discussion tonight will help someone in whatever place they are in on this journey called life. And they will get the help that they need. I do want to share also this resource because the holidays are coming soon. And I want to make sure that people are prepared if they need assistance with grief or grieving. Grief Share, and it's www.griefshare.com. I want to make sure that people have resources. So if you would jot down griefshare.com, griefshare.com, griefshare, one word.com. I want to make sure that you have what you need in the wake of the holidays coming. If you need to find a group and be a part of that group, it is typically a free class. I think you may have to pay for the books, but the class itself is so helpful in the process of dealing with grief on any level, whether it's your husband, your parents, your siblings, your children, relatives, friends, or whomever. It was truly a benefit to me when my husband passed away. So I want to make sure that griefshare.com is in your resources. Griefshare.com. Please make sure that you jot that down. If not for yourself, please share it with someone else. It could change their life and it could be a true blessing to them. So please lock that in as a part of your resources, griefshare.com. So with that being said, it's about 6 after 7, and I want to introduce to you all our featured guest for this evening, Dr. Lisa Padgett-Hughes, who will join me for this discussion again about mental health for optimal health during this COVID-19 season and beyond. So please join me in welcoming her as we talk about this topic that's so important on so many levels. Good evening, Dr. Hughes.
Hi, my sister. How are you this evening?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm well, and thank you for the invite. It is my pleasure always to come and talk about a passion, mental health, especially getting the word out for our people. This is an important time in the country, and mental health is on the rise. So I don't take it lightly, and was honored that you asked me to show up this evening.
Yes, thank you. As I was saying before I brought you in, I've struggled in this area, and so it's near and dear to my heart because it can either take you down and out, or you can come up and rise above it. So
Mhm.
I want to make sure that we are sharing some resources and some information that can definitely benefit the audience this evening. So,
And
as we're preparing to get started, I would like for you to introduce yourself to the audience.
good evening. Good evening. I am Dr. Lisa Padgett-Hughes. I am a life coach. The life coach I call myself with real life experiences. I have a master's in education with a focus in counseling and psychology, a master's of science in marriage and family therapy. I am owner of Matters of the Mind Life Coaching Services, as well as owner of and founder, CEO and founder of Go Forth and Sustain, which is a nonprofit organization for ex-offenders, men and women, and it also has that mental health component in it. I am a former ninth grade special education language arts teacher. I left the classroom about maybe 7 years ago to pursue my passion in mental health. After realizing that our students, it wasn't about them just not learning, there were other things behind the scene that was going on that wasn't conducive to their learning. And so the environments at home were plagued with abuse, mental health issues that the parents suffered. And that's when I decided to go back to school and pursue the degree in mental health. Myself as well, I also had a bout with depression that possibly could have gone darker and deeper into the other side. And that was in 2000. It started about 2011 when we got the news that my grandmother was ill, that she was actually dying. And that was a hard pill to swallow. So once she died in 2013, getting back home and adjusting, I knew what I knew because I had taken the classes and studied so much material. So I could see it coming and setting on with me, but it was different. And I continued to move. And I continued to move and work until one day there was just a big blow up at the office. Me and the boss got into it. And at that moment, that's when I knew it was time for me to go home and really start to work on my own mental health. And I was fortunate enough that I knew the signs and I seen it coming. What was unfortunate that the people around me did not see it, and I was still moving. And so for me, that is the part that we've got to um, get past. I showed up looking fabulous, day in, day out, but inside and in here, I was a mess and nobody knew. And the people that thought something was going on, they didn't really know how to address it. And so I'm glad again that you invited me this evening. So maybe someone out there in the audience that is going through, that they have family members or friends themselves, and they see or feel something just not right, that they'll know how to address the issue.
Awesome. Thank you. And you're right. Sometimes people can see, and then sometimes they can't see what may be happening. But when they do see that there are some signs, they're afraid, they're reluctant, they don't want to step on any toes, they don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. So they don't address what could be help for that person. And so I'm hoping tonight's show will give them the courage to approach it in a loving way or a gentle way where it will be received and the person can get what they need so that they can be their best selves. So with that being said, kind of explain what mental health, when we talk about mental health, what that is and why it is so important for optimal health. So, we go through life and I believe it starts first in the mind, the battlefield of the mind, in order for us to be our best selves. So when we talk about mental health, what is that? What are we talking about? And why is it important to our optimal health?
When we talk about mental health, we're basically talking about the psychological aspect of life, that social and psychological part that is connecting, the mental health part. And for optimal health, we will be talking about your best self, your well-being overall, how you're feeling, your thought patterns, your behavior, things that you just don't discuss. And so we look at that. What is optimal? Basically satisfactory. You're still moving. You're not having a lot of the long lasting issues that comes with maybe say depression. You may experience depression, but you can't really necessarily say you have a diagnosis of depression because you're still getting up moving. You're not withdrawing from people, but you still know that something is just not right and it's not clicking. So oftentimes that's one of the diagnoses that's often missed because we're still looking and talking about things that are long term. And so once you start to see a pattern of isolation, for instance, withdrawing from friends, not socializing in the manner that they did. They're not showing up for work. They're looking tattered. They're not dressing, bathing. That's when there's a time to get concerned. More sleeping than usual. Most people that experience bouts of depression, they will still get up and show up. And we do that still again, oftentimes, because we're processing that. That's what we were trained to do. You get up. If you're not really just deathly ill, you're going to get up and you're going to show up and do what you need to do. But when we're looking at mental health or optimal health, we're talking about that psychological piece that's long lasting, where you're just more or less sitting in it. You just can't shake it. You can't shake it. You can't talk about it. And then you just kind of isolated and withdrawn.
And I when I think of that optimal piece, as you said, trying to be or our goal of being our best self, um, overall, not just mentally, but physically, being able to reach those goals. And if our mind is not in a good place, then we will show up, but we won't really reach the optimal best, our optimal best in life. And so we want to make sure, as you've mentioned, that our mind is in a good place. We're healthy mentally, psychologically, and we're able to move forward, being our best self. So that's what our goal is tonight, is to help people understand this mental piece of being healthy overall, as it starts the battlefield of the mind. And the mind can cause you to do a lot of things. I think of the people who have committed suicide. I think of the people who have murdered others. There was something going on in the battlefield of their mind that caused them to commit those crimes to themselves or to others, that was never addressed, whether it was as a child or as an adult, whether it was self-inflicted or inflicted by others. And we have to get what we need to, in order to be healthy, especially if it has been tainted, especially if someone has caused us to be ill. Are you able to hear me,
Having a
Lisa?
hard time hearing you.
Okay. So my next question is, what would you consider to be the leading causes of mental health issues today?
The leading causes of mental health issues today, I would say COVID. Not just COVID, the change in climate, the change in work, the change in friends, just the change of life, period. And so what I've seen since March, and I'm grateful, an influx of clients that some have never talked with a therapist, never even thought of talking with a therapist, but COVID has gotten them in a place of stagnation where they are feeling lost, hopeless. They're feeling a lot of hopelessness. Some are having SI, which is suicidal ideations. Some are going through divorce because of it, which is causing more strain. The kids being at home and you're homeschooling, of course, if you're not a teacher, you don't have a background, that's causing stress for parents. And a lot of people have lost their jobs, and just the overall knowing, you're seeing the numbers of death. Although we know life and death is a part of existing, we live, we die, it's sudden. And it's been to a point where some people have not had closure. People have not been able to attend funerals like they were used to and before. The masks are keeping people in a state of panic and depression. So this season of election, job loss, COVID, it has just really escalated, I feel, as a therapist, for a lot of the depression that you see. And a lot of it was already there underlying, because as I've been talking to people, they've had issues and knew some things were going on, but it's like it has manifest since some have lost jobs and homeschooling and the things going on in the world.
You're right. I totally agree with you. This season has been tough on many people, particularly like you said, those who have had issues underlying before COVID came on the scene, and now it has made it bigger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know on my job, we talk often about EAP services, employment services, assistant programs. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have the number to call and schedule a session for myself, for a counseling session, because I just want to make sure that I'm good. And so I think I have to applaud the directors of the department that I work in, because they really want to make sure that their employees are good. And as you say, a lot of times we will pretend that
Mm-hmm.
we're good, that we're okay, but deep down inside, we're really not. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that until we get to a place, a comfortable place, where we're willing to say, nope, I'm not good, or I'm not sure if
Right.
I'm good, and I need to check and see so
Mm-hmm.
that, I can experience an optimal lifestyle or a healthy optimal life for myself and my family members. And so I have been pro therapy for a long time. And so I am so excited to have you to talk about this mental health topic, because they tend to shy away from this topic, and it's very important,
Mm-hmm. It
just as
is.
important as our spiritual life.
It is definitely important. I told someone the other day, this is a time where if you really sincerely do not have time when you say to someone, pass someone, just speak and say hello. Don't ask how you're doing. People are not doing well. So if you yourself do not have time to sit, talk with them, or maybe refer them to someone or say, listen, I know someone you could talk to, just wait.
Mm-hmm.
Just say hello, because people are really hurting. And the
Yes.
people in their space, because things are still so spinning. And again, for our people, mental health is taboo.
Mm-hmm.
We do not discuss it because usually in therapy, you're going to deal with things that are very uncomfortable for people. And sometimes when you're dealing with the root causes, and for me, that's my niche. We're going to talk, but I'm going to get to the root causes, because people's behaviors just don't change. No one wakes up and decide, I'm going to be an addict today. No one wakes up and decide, well, I'm going to be an alcoholic. No one wants to be stuck to the bed because they're depressed.
Mm-hmm.
Something has happened.
Mm-hmm.
And once you really start to spend time with people and talk to them, you realize a lot of their stuff is childhood trauma that they've just packed stuff on top of. And now we're at a space where everything is different. And so all of that stuff is almost regurgitating and coming up, and they're panicking. So if you can't sit and talk with someone, refer them to someone, we've got to move to a place of it's okay to talk about things that are bothering you. My grandmother, I loved her to death, but everything grandmama told me was not right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Keeping family business, the secrets we kept, not talking about emotions and feelings. She was a stern woman. She worked. She was a hard. You had a work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
She was loving and kind, but grandmama didn't really deal with emotions.
Right.
She didn't deal with all of that crying and weepiness and sadness. That just wasn't who she was. She couldn't process that. But they grew up in that time. You didn't tell
Right.
family secrets. You didn't talk about things that were really going on with you on the inside. You were going to pray about it, and we're going to keep it moving.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong out there, for anybody that's listening. You know, Lisa Tanya is a prayer warrior. She loves Jesus. We ride and die. But honey, faith without works is dead.
Absolutely. I
Scripture
was
tells us
just
that.
about to say
So
that.
when you're in that space,
Yes.
you still pray, but you've got to do the work. And the work will be
Right.
getting a therapist, connecting yourself with a life coach or a counselor, someone that's going to help you really navigate that process.
Mm-hmm. And as you said, growing up, don't tell the family secrets. We have to get away from that, because those secrets are killing us internally.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there's something that needs to be dealt with, we need to be able to deal with it and find someone that we can confide in, that we feel comfortable talking with, so that we can get to the root cause and come up with a solution, so that we can be our best selves, because we can't be until those issues, those matters of the heart. And as you said, prayer is awesome, but we have to do the work. And sometimes we need help to do the work.
Right.
And we can't be ashamed of that.
Mm-hmm.
So as we continue the discussion, what led you to become a coach? I know you kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but was there any specific incidents that you had to deal with that a light came on and said, yes, I've got to do this, not only for myself, but for others?
I didn't hear you, my sister.
I said, what caused you, or What made you become a mental health coach?
Um, my own issues. I knew as a child, we went through a lot. It wasn't stuff like a lot of people went through, but it was still enough. It was enough to kind of shift the household, for better terms. We moved once. I know my depression. I can look back now. I was a sad child. I was a sad teenager. I was a sad young adult. People around me only saw the smile. They only saw the outside, the made up, so they didn't know. We moved to Pensacola Village. I met some great people. I had some great times, but in my heart of hearts, I could not settle, if that made any sense. It took me to a different mental space. That wasn't where I felt we were supposed to be. So, with that coupled on mom, I realized later on in life, my mom suffered from depression. We did not know that at the time, but we knew as children she would go in a room and she would have days where she's gonna lock the door, she's gonna stay in her room. Me being the oldest, so I kind of did what she would have done. And so you just thinking she's feeling bad. It was years later when we found out that she too had suffered from depression. And so for me, it was just looking at everything that was going on around me, knowing what I was predisposed to. And when you know what you're predisposed to, the alcoholism, the drug addiction, the mental health, then you have to take notice and live, as you say, if you want your life to be different, is now about living my best life. And so once I really became someone's mom, that's when I really started to go and lay on the couch, sit on the sofa, I sought services because at that point I wanted to be show up better to my kids than I felt like my parents showed up for me. I wanted some different things. I wanted them to be able to talk. And I know as a young mother at 22, single, became a statistic that I wasn't supposed to be in my mind. So now I'm wrestling with that. Coupled with a premature baby, postpartum depression, and then 10 months later, another baby. Mhm. So the cycle was just going, and I continued to show up and show out, in church every Sunday, part of any committee that was, but nobody saw. They just knew that, oh, she's nice. But it was the stuff on the inside. And it wasn't until I got married that I really started to address a lot of the issues because the language had changed. I was angry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The typical, as they say, the angry Black woman. I was angry. I was angry that I had been somebody's mama twice. No help. I was angry. I was angry that the dad went on and did what he wanted to do. I was angry that my mom had depression and suffered from mental health issues that we never were told until later in life. I was angry that my sister, some of them, we ended up just doing things we shouldn't have been doing if we would have had that support. So I internalized it. And once I realized, one day I was talking, and I was talking to my husband, and I was having a fit. I mean, a meltdown. And he said, listen, no one cares what you say. It's how you say what you say. You say things so cutthroat to it's like you just want somebody to bleed out. You're going to have to do something about that. And that was when I really did. And that was like 99, I think. We had been together about 2-3 years. I really started to work on it. We're staying committed. I would go to services, seek services on and off. But it wasn't until that exchange with him that I realized then, yeah, there's something. You have all this stuff on the inside. He doesn't know that. He's a decent man. And here you're going to be ran him off with your attitude and your words, and you're all over the place. And I was all over the place. And it was then when I realized, okay, you're going to have to go and work on you Because if you don't work on you, then it's going to still trickle down to your girls, which, by the way, thank God this season, both are mentally well, because they too, my oldest was in the Air Force. She also has suffered from depression and she has PTSD. My youngest has also suffered from depression, but their biological father committed suicide. So there had to be some kind of waves, I feel, genetically. And that's what research is showing now, the genetic ties to mental health. And that's why we have to understand what we're predisposed to. We have to know mama's history, daddy's history, grandmama's history, grandmama's mama. We have to know that, because those type things, know what you're predisposed to, can help you chart a better path for your own life. As far as for me, I knew alcoholism, mental health, and drug addiction was there. So I just walked the thin line, because I knew at any minute you drink too much, you may be an alcoholic. That was just always a fear of mine. You use the wrong something, you get involved with this, you're going to be an addict instantly. You couldn't tell me nothing different from that. And the mental health, I've got to be as sane as possible, because mom had issues. And so I knew she had issues and we didn't talk about them, and I don't want those issues. So you knowing what you're predisposed to, we call it the trees, tracing your roots, that's necessary.
That's good. I would like, and someone made a comment and said, what can we do to help someone? And my question to you is, how can we speak to or help someone with mental health issues such as depression and anxiety? What should we say to that person, whether it's someone close to us or not? How do we help them?
Well, I would say, my own personal thing, I usually try to notice and start slow. A lot of times we want to just jump in there, but you're going to find things, talk about well-being. How are you feeling? You want to make the person know that they're safe. You want them to feel safe, that they can talk to you about anything. You want to ask them questions like, is there anything that I can do for you? I noticed lately that they may not be bathing, that you seem to be a little unkempt and ruffled. Is everything okay? Is there anything you would like me to do for you? Is anything going on with you today? And sometimes if you're close enough to the person, they will just tell you, even if they've kept it from years, because it's that breaking point. And a lot of times people are just really wanting somebody to ask what's going on. How can I help you? As I said earlier, if you do not have the time when you pass somebody and say, how are you today? We do that all the time. How are you? Mm-hmm. And you go about your business. Sigh. When you ask someone how they're doing and they say, I'm fine. Good. That elevated pitch is always an indicator they're in distress. They're not fine. They're not okay. Something is going on with them on the inside that they're not willing to share. So they've mastered to the point they're fine. They're okay. And they would use those words until somebody says to them, listen, I notice you've been just looking a little different lately. It could be a spouse or a kid that's sleeping. Are you getting enough rest? For employers, we have it all the time. Somebody comes to work and they're looking a little hazed, and they're slacking off, and nobody ever knows. And they could be slacking off because they're starting to feel depressed. They could be anxious on the inside, feeling like they can't get the day going, something's going on. But unless you're going to actually sit, try to talk, and again, try, because you're not versed in that. So your best mode would be listen. I've been watching and noticing a few days that you've been coming to work and You just haven't looked the same. Is there anything that I can do to help you? Is everything at home okay? And that usually opens up that door for people to start talking. And if they don't talk and you're still noticing that something, then that's where you, they say mental health well check. Let's talk about the mental health well check. You can also ask people, why don't you tell me what you're feeling or how you're feeling? But you know, you can also call on the flip side of that. If they've gotten to the point isolated, so withdrawn, you can't get through to them. People are quick to call the police for a well check. Don't do that. If you're not going to be there physically with the person that you called to check on, don't do that. Because what happens is you throw that person into a heightened sense of alert, panic. Now the cops are banging on their door. They're telling them they're there to check on them. But guess what happens? If the cop comes and they're manic all over the place, they may get taken.
Tragic. Right.
And if they get taken, they're going to the hospital. And states vary. In the state of Georgia, they're going to hold you for 48, 72 hours. Max. Minimum. That's based on an ER, usually an intern doing a psych eval. If you haven't calmed down within that specified amount of time, then now they're going to transfer you to one of the facilities for further observation. Well, guess what happens at the facility? Only the doctor can release you. So you're going to go through groups. You're going to go through people that are there that have more things probably going on than you do. Real diagnoses from schizophrenia to paranoia. So you're in here with all these people, and you just could have had a bad day and a meltdown. But you're going to stay there in that facility until the doctor feels that you're well enough to go home. And usually they will release you to somebody, but the person needs to be usually in the medical field or someone that's versed, that they know that you're going to get some treatment immediately. So my best line of defense, I would always just ask someone, start with how you're feeling. Is there anything that I can do for you? Do you want to talk about how you're feeling? That's always a good one. Because again, you're allowing the person to have exchange with you. Sometimes that's all people need. They just want somebody to ask, how are you, really, and be concerned.
That's good. I mean, I remember, as I said, when my husband passed away, mentally, I was not in a good place. And I had a really great support system around me to come. Some people came and just sat. Some people asked what they could do. Some people even said, I can't let you be in this space. I know that you're here, but I can't let you stay there. They were concerned. I knew that they loved me. And I'm the type of person who will talk about how I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. You won't have to wonder. I'm going to let you know how I'm feeling. And that has always helped me over the years to be able to express how I feel. And it's important for people to allow others to talk about how they feel, no matter how painful it might be for you to hear it. I think it's important to let them talk. And as you said, to let them know you care. Because a lot of times people don't share with others because of fear of people gossiping and talking about them and not really truly caring about them. And so we have to make sure that they know genuinely, I care about you. So I'm hoping that if there's someone out there that has somebody in their circle that's struggling mentally, that they can assist them or get them to someone who can assist them as they're going through their challenges. I know your information is there. As a life coach, I know there are also doctors,
And I would
psychiatrists,
also
psychologists.
like to let anyone out there know that's listening know that monthly I do 5 to 7 free hours because all people I don't take insurance. I operate on a sliding scale, but even on the sliding scale, some people just don't have the expenses to afford therapy. But I want everyone to be mentally well. I've been there. I've been in that space. So if I know you're going to show up, you've been a referral from someone, and I know you're going to show up and do the work, I'm going to see you
Well, your
for
information
12
is
weeks. That's what I do. I'm going to talk to you free of charge, but I'm going to expect you in return to show up and do the work. Because again, I can't do it for you. I can, as we were told, we can lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink. And a lot of times, it's the rush system. So I've heard people say, well, I've gone to counselors and they just didn't do anything for me. I was there and she was doing something else or whatever. Well, they get tired and they burned out. And some of them, a good bit of them that takes insurance, well, there are mandates on what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, how many sessions you're going to have. But for me, I'm a life coach, meaning I am getting ready to help you walk through and become a better version of you, help you with your life, whether it's organization you need, you just need someone to talk to, you've had some childhood stuff that's still present, you don't know how to go, you up, down, you weepy, but you know I'm not all the way there, but something still is bothering me. That's my role as a life coach. I'm going to help you walk out your best authentic you. You know,
and with that being said, as a life coach, there are also therapists out there who are psychologists, psychiatrists. So we have to find the best fit for us. The best fit for us. And if one doesn't work, you have to find another. You don't give up on yourself. And so when I think of mental health, I think of making sure that you are good, not giving up on you, the person, because there are some people who depend on you.
I'm so glad you talked about that fit, because my disclaimer, I am not for everybody.
Right.
I am not for everybody. I am passionate about mental health. So you can't just come and blow smoke at me. You can't just come and sit in the chair and waste my time. You can't show up and not do the work. You can't come 1 week and skip 2 weeks. I'm going to send you a nice little termination letter. It's personal for me because I know the end result of the dynamics of not being your whole self and not being treated. I know what it is to walk on the dark side and to be in that space where you feel like you just can't come back. But as you say, I was a talker. So I didn't have a problem saying what was going on with me. It may not have been appropriate what I was saying and how I was saying it, but I was saying, listen here. And I think the most hurting for me was the fact that people literally in my circle, in my space, they didn't know. And the ones that did, they didn't know how to help me because I was their help. I always showed up for them. So they were just, and when we started talking about it, they were like, wow.
And people don't realize
I thought something was going on with you.
The therapist needs a therapist.
Oh, yes. And I have a therapist. All therapists need a therapist.
And the doctor needs a doctor. A teacher needs a teacher. And so we have to remember that we all need help at some point. And so we have to find what works for us. And I know as we're, coming into a close of the show, I just want to make sure that people understand, in order to experience optimal health for yourself or for ourselves, we have to make sure that the mental health part of this equation is intact, and that we're not embarrassed, because everyone goes through something. And
Mm-hmm.
so we can't be ashamed of our
No.
journey. It is our journey. It is
Mm-hmm.
unique to us. And so whether we've lost a husband, whether we've lost a child, whether we've lost
Mm-hmm.
parents, whether we've lost friends or whomever, we have to make sure that we're dealing with the impact or the effects of the loss and make sure that we're in a good, healthy place moving forward in order to live that vibrant life that, I oftentimes talk about. And it is a
Mm-hmm.
choice. We have to make a decision. And so I
And
have
I
another
think for
question
me,
for
the
you.
most disheartening when we talk about mental health, people do get quiet. They get quiet, they kind of shut down. I was having this conversation the other day with someone about a program, and immediately they said, "Oh, they're not going to pay for that." And so me listening, I said, "Okay, so tell me why. Why wouldn't?" She's like, "It's not finances. It's not a purse. It's not a trip." And I was like, "But the price is low." And she's like, "You're missing the point. People will pay $1,000 for some finance stuff, a tip for some finance. They'll pay $1,000 to repair their credit. People don't care how crazy and sloppy their minds are. They're not going to pay for that." And I thought to myself, it activated my spirit, one. And then I started making phone calls just to see how many people would show up and pay that price. But you know what I found out? Those people that said that they would show up are tired of being sick and tired. They
Mhm.
know something is going on. So this season, they're ready to put down the purses. I don't need another Dooney and Burke or Birkenstock or whatever. I'm going to invest that money in here. I'm going to nurture my mental health this season. I'm going to
Mhm.
take whatever money it is, and that's what I'm going to do. I got a referral, and that was one of the things the lady said. We were talking about payment, and I said, "Well, honey, I'll work. How you get paid, I'll work it out with you." And again, I'm flexible like that. And she
Mhm.
said, "I think the pay is real fair. The price is fair. And I appreciate you allow me to pay monthly." She said, "Because I'm going to do that because this is for me.
Mhm.
I need this season or I'm going to be in a mental hospital." So when you have people start to take that kind of control over their own life and mental health, she's tried everything else. The bottle, the pills, bad relationships, clinging on to people that she shouldn't have been. She's tried it all, as she said.
Mhm.
Pills without talk therapy. And she just felt like, as one of her friends said, "You need to call her. You need to reach out. She'll work with you and call somebody that's going to be able to help you move past the things." And after, I think we talked 2 or 3 hours of first session. Oh, I've gotten a message almost every day from her telling me how much better she feels just to get that one layer of stuff. She has
Mhm.
multiple things going on, and there's layers to it. It's not going to manifest overnight. You're going to, but just the fact, as she said, she had someone to sit with her to actually listen to what she was saying and actively engage in her process. She said she felt like just a weight had been lifted off her shoulders, stuff she had been carrying for years.
Right. And sometimes that's all people need
Mm-hmm.
is a listening ear. And we have been labeled, particularly in the African American or the Black community, you're crazy if you talk to a therapist. It's such a negative overtone to it that people shy away from it. But I'm so grateful that for me, it has worked for me over the years. And, I too am a life coach, and I understand the importance of coaching and walking people through their journey
Mm-hmm.
where they
Mm-hmm.
need to be. My population is, widows and widowers. And, I'm grateful that I have been one who's overcome
Mm-hmm.
the tragic loss of a spouse. And I'm able to help people walk through this journey because I know it personally.
Yes.
And like you know it personally from the mental
Mm-hmm.
depression perspective. And so you can help them and relate to them
Mm-hmm.
because people want to
Mm-hmm.
know that you can relate to them when they're seeking help on these
And so
levels.
do you
Um,
yourself find that the people are more inclined to participate and be more engaged when they know you yourself has gone through the same
they
thing?
they do.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And
They
that's
do.
what's going on now with me. It's the
Hmm.
fact that the life coach with real life experiences. I'm not going to sugarcoat my life to anyone, regardless
Nope.
of what you think it is or how made up I appear to you on the outside. I've struggled for years.
Hmm. Hmm.
For
There are moments.
years.
There are
Mm-hmm.
moments right now that I struggle, and I try to be very transparent with
Mm-hmm.
people. There are moments that I still struggle, but
Mm-hmm.
I have made a choice every day to get up and live a very intentional, vibrant life.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never say that I have it all together, because I don't, and I don't want people to think that I do. I have just made a decision to live a vibrant life in spite of the
In
challenges that
spite
I
of.
have
Mm-hmm.
gone through and are going through. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that, it's important for us to be very transparent as coaches
It
and
is.
therapists, because people appreciate that. They
Mm-hmm.
appreciate the sincerity or the
Mm-hmm.
genuineness of people like us. So I appreciate you sharing wholeheartedly, um, not only your professional perspective, but your personal perspective on this topic, of mental health for optimal health. And we want to, if there's some parting words that you want to share with the audience, any resources. I know in the beginning I shared griefshare.com for the audience, because I want to make sure during this upcoming holiday season that people understand that there are many resources out there, and
Mm-hmm.
Google is wonderful for those resources. Of
There
course, I have
is
provided.
a crisis line, which is 1-800-273-8255. And that is if you are or someone you know is in crisis and you need them to have help. Of course, if you can't get through on that line, you're going to immediately dial 911. If it's to the point where the person is manic and you cannot calm them down. And again, I love my police.
What is that
But
number
I
again,
want
please?
you to be careful when you're dialing the police for mental health.
What is the
Because
number
again,
again?
ma'am,
What is
it's
the
1
number?
800 273 TALK 8255. 1-800 273 8255.
Okay, so I appreciate
And
that.
that's for information if someone is in crisis. But you're going to call and get help and try to, for the most part, sit if you can. If you're there, be engaged and sit with the person until someone comes. That would be the best thing. And a lot of times, as you said, just talking with someone, genuinely letting them know that you are available to them, it kind of sometimes eases things. It doesn't make it go away, but it puts them in a different space and oftentimes allow them to start their process.
Absolutely. And I recommend that, get the help. If you're not that person for that person to help them, recommend them to someone or get them to the help that they need, because you may
I
not
do.
be what they need. And you have to be smart enough to know that you're not what they need, but get
Mm-hmm.
them what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And a lot
So,
of and oftentimes we have to be again that as you say, you have to understand your own trials and errors, what you can and cannot do. Um, Again, my niche is root causes because I do understand predisposition. So I know things start from some place. There are clients that are really out of my scope that I don't always take. I have taken sex offenders, but I usually refer them to my friend Heidi Kilmer, who's in Tennessee. That is her niche, that's her specialty. And so that's something that really is out of my realm. But if they're having some basic issues outside of their crime, then I usually deal with them. But if it's something too gory in that sense, that's where I refer them out. A lot of times, as you say, the spirits for me, doesn't fit. So I will refer you out because it's not always about the money. I want the person to be well. And I know I'm stern. I'm passionate about it because I've been on both sides of it. As you say, now you and I talk personally. It's been challenging for me these last few months since April with my mother-in-law here. So I've got to nurture my own mental health. So with that being said, a lot of times your own plate gets full. And as a therapist, that would be a great time as well to refer someone out.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. I am so excited to have this conversation, and I hope that it has caused some people to sit down and take a retrospective look into their own personal situation and see what it is that they may need to continue towards optimal health for themselves,
Yes.
and reach out to the resources. As you said, all money isn't good money, and so you don't want to take all money because it may not be good money. So all money is not good money.
No.
I'm not that desperate.
Right.
So I would just want to make sure that people know that it is important to tend to your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, it is a terrible thing to waste. And many times we put it on the back burner. But take care of your mind. Take care of your mind. If nothing else from this session you got is to take care of your mind.
Take care of
Make
your
sure you're
mind.
healthy mentally, because it is a battlefield in that mind every day. And we have to
And
make
we
sure
have
that
to
we're
understand as
equipped
well as
for the
adults.
battle.
And as adults, the children are watching, the grandchildren
Right.
are watching. So we've got to be in the better spaces and the best spaces that we can be in because now kids as young as 4 and 5, are committing
Absolutely.
suicide. They're suffering from depression.
Hmm.
So how can that be? Again, that's where you think maybe it could be genetics. But
Right.
I look back, as I said earlier, I was a sad child. So we have to be engaged as well with the children,
Yeah. Yeah.
making sure that they're well, asking your kids, how was your day?
Right.
Is anything going on with you? Do you want to talk about anything?
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you again. Thank you again. This has been a wonderful opportunity to share on this level with
It has
you.
been.
I wish you nothing but the best on your
I thank
continued
you.
journey and your latest accomplishment or honor in becoming Dr. Lisa Padgett-Hughes. That
Yes,
is
it's
a
just been
wonderful,
awesome.
wonderful accomplishment. And so continue the journey of being your best self and
Thank you.
while looking good.
Thank you.
Yes. So
It's
thank you so
always a
much.
pleasure.
Yes, always.
And
Thank you
anyone
so
out there in
much.
the listening audience, if you are in Pensacola, Florida on Saturday, we are sold out, but I think Mrs. V may have a few tickets left. So we will be presenting Mind, Body, and Spirit on Saturday at 2 o'clock in Pensacola at the
Awesome.
UFR Fitness Center.
Awesome. Whoop, whoop. Pensacola in the house. Wishing you the
And
best
we're
on that.
coming back. Robin and I will be back to TV on December 7th. So catch me there too for a Be
All right.
Positive show on December 7th. We'll be coming back with my own segment. Straight Talk, No Chasing with Dr. L. Get ready, honey. Get ready. We get ready to free your minds.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much and all the best to you and the Be Positive show and Robin and you guys, just hats off to you. Thank you. And you have a good
Thank
night.
you. You have a good night.
Thank you. Love you. So thank you all for watching this episode this evening on mental health for optimal health. And I hope that particularly each person that's watching will understand the importance of making sure that their mental state of being is in a healthy place. It doesn't matter what your friends say or what they're doing. You, me, and everyone else has to take care of ourselves mentally in order to live our best life. That is so important. And so It was important to me to have this segment before the holidays coming up. And as I said earlier, griefshare.com is available for resources for grieving, as well as Dr. Lisa for coaching. Just find resources on your job. Call, sometimes they're nominal or no cost. Find those resources and get the help you need. And you guys stay blessed. And remember, I love you, but God loves you most, and He loves you best. Peace, love, and blessings. Good night.